Good morning, everybody. We're just going to give everybody 30 seconds or so to find their way into the room, because often it always takes a little while for people. But thank you for joining us this morning. So whilst we get everybody in, I will just get slides ready for us to roll. But we appreciate you joining us this morning for what's going to be a really interesting conversation around working with our clients, decoding our clients' financial reports. So we've got people coming in. So if you can hear me, if you can see me, pop something in the chat box. Tell us where you're joining us from this morning. How's the weather? It's kind of okay here, a bit of sunshine. Summer has finally arrived. We hope.
Let's not get too
Um, so,
excited.
so let's get underway. We are definitely going to be done by 12 o'clock. I always like to aim to finish just a little bit before that. So if you've got a 12 o'clock appointment, then you're not panicking right at the end. We would love to get questions. This is an online panel discussion. So if you imagine going to a live event, you're going to get the chance to stick your hand up, ask a question. So throw those questions into the Q&A box at any time during the session today. I will pick those up, and one of us will provide some answers for that. This is very much about sharing experiences and helping you get to the point you want to in terms of delivering these higher value services to your clients. So quick introductions. I'm delighted to be joined by Ron and Sarah today. So I'm going to get them to do a quick introduction of themselves. So Sarah, I'll come to you first. You just want to tell people who you are?
Hi everyone, so I'm Sarah Smith and I am the Digital Services Manager or Digital Advisory Manager. I do sort of change that a little bit from time to time at JS. We are a firm of accountants and business advisors based in the Northwest, in between Manchester, Liverpool, Warrington and Wigan. So I've been at the firm for 26 years. So during that time, I've had experience with clients, year-end accounts, management accounts, bookkeeping, management reporting, which of course we'll coming on to today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Sarah. Lovely to have you here. And Ron.
Hi everyone. My name's Ron. I'm head of customer success at Futrli. Been here for goodness me, coming up on 5 years now. So lots of experience helping accountants roll out these services. Usually coming down one of two strands, either modernizing existing things, getting people out of spreadsheets as much as we all love them, or adding these services for the first time. So yeah, really excited to talk about this stuff.
Excellent. And for those that don't know me, I'm Will Farnell. I wear a number of hats. First and foremost, I'm founder and director of Farnell Clark, an accountancy firm based in Norfolk. And I'm also co-founder of App Advisory Plus. And this is one of our app vendor partner online sessions that we run during the course of the year. So delighted to have you all with us. So let's just have a quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. We've done some welcomes, we've done some introductions. We're gonna start the conversation shortly in terms of a conversation around what clients really need, because I've felt for a long time that we're really good at selling what we think clients want to buy rather than what they actually need. So we're going to talk a little bit about what that is and why clients need it. How do we go about understanding clients' objectives? And once we've done that, how do we go about making sure that we increase the number of touch points to make sure that we're delivering against those objectives that our clients have? We're going to talk about some of the things that from our experiences as accountants in practice, in terms of Sarah and I and Ron's experience of working with firms trying to do more advisory work. What are the things that get in the way? So what are the things that stop this working successfully? We're going to touch on some of the key KPIs that really matter, because what we're talking about today is decoding our clients' numbers. So what do they actually mean? Helping clients understand what their numbers really mean for them and their business. So what are the KPIs we need to be thinking about, and how do we measure them? And then really thinking about, how do we actually make it happen? What are the strategies to use those numbers to drive better decision making? And whilst we're focusing on clients here, so much of this is also about the way that we use our own numbers in our own firms to drive the decisions that we make as well. Plenty of time for Q&A, but as I say, happy to take questions as we go through the session. So if somebody makes a point that you want to kind of pick up, get the questions in, and we'll pick those up as we go through. So I'm almost done with the slides. I'm going to take these away in a moment, and we're going to get into a discussion. But before we do that, Lon, do you just want to, in case anybody doesn't know who Futrli are and what you do you want to just give a quick introduction to what you guys do, where you come from, and how you support accountants and bookkeepers?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you haven't heard of us before, Futrli is essentially your all-in-one forecasting and reporting engine. Essentially the idea is to have a one-stop shop for delivering services exactly like this. So any type of forward-looking projections, from your traditional budgeting all the way through to cash flow forecast influenced by direct forecasting, invoices and bills on an automated sense, through to stat reports, dashboards, management accounts, board packs and funding applications. Anything that you can think of that you need in that space, we could create it for you, with the idea being rather than having 4 apps to do it, do it all in one place, with an emphasis on processes as well, hopefully saving you time in your monthly reporting cycles.
Excellent. Thank you, Rob. So I mean, I think to start, Sarah, I mean, it'd be really good just to hear a little bit about what you've done in your firm around this area of working with clients.
Yes.
We should capture kind of some of those key areas that I talked about in a moment, in terms of you just talking about your story, where you started and where you are now, and kind of briefly some things you need to tackle it.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. More than happy to. And do you know, our Futrli journey in particular started, oh, it must be about 6-ish years ago. It's actually quite some time ago, initially. And we recognised, I think, that we as a firm wanted to find a way that we could actually do our reporting for our management accounting for clients better. That's where it started. We wanted to be more efficient in doing that, rather than having multiple spreadsheets, you know, big long ETBs, etc. We actually wanted to be more efficient, and it was that actually led us to Futrli. We had a discussion actually at one of the accounting conferences, I think it was Accountex, and we actually really liked what we saw. We were like, oh, this looks really good. It looks easy to use. It attaches into Xero, which is what we predominantly use for our bookkeeping clients, as well as Sage, I should say, as well. We do have some clients that are actually using Sage as well. So we thought, actually, this looks really good, and we want to try and use this. And I must admit, when Futrli came in, and I think every time I see the lady that helped us, I do obviously we have a little bit of a smile about it. But when they came in, we had a session with all the managers, like, we really want to use this. This is the tool that we're going to be using, and everyone was like, "Whoa, whoa, what's this? What's this that we're using? We're not keen on them. We're not keen on this. Like, what's this? This doesn't look like." I think it was the look of it. It doesn't look like this table that we're used to producing for our clients. It doesn't look like this sea of numbers on an Excel that we're used to producing. And we can't use this for my client because my client's different. And we can't use this for my client because my client's this client's different and this client's different. And we just can't use this. And there was a lot of objection, I think it's fair to say, which I think is actually that's the case with any change, isn't it? It's certainly not about the products. It's, you know, that's the case. So, you know, we then was like, right, okay, so we need to find, you know, we've not got everyone on board. Okay, we need to find a different way to get everyone on board with this journey. So we did continue, actually, you know, to say, well, you know, we should be using this, but the take up of it, I would say, wasn't very high to start off with. So we had some people that would then jump on and use the platform and they loved it. Some people that would then jump on the platform and say, oh, actually, no, I don't know how to use it. I'm not using it, because, you know, they thought that all their clients were different. And then they'd also say, actually, interestingly, which I think is one of the points that Paul will come on to, that that's not what my client wants. I was like, well, how do we know what your client wants? You know, if you've not presented this to the clients, if we've not shown them,
not asked them.
Yeah, we've not asked them. Absolutely, that's right. We've not asked them what they want. You know, we don't know. We assume, because we like to reconcile and use Excel, we assume that that's what the client wants. When in actual fact, and one of the reasons that we felt that Futrli was better, right way, you know, was a best choice at the beginning, was the way that we could actually present some of the information. We didn't have to use you know, a table of numbers, because I don't think personally, if a client, if you've got someone who's not come from a finance background, who's running a business, they don't necessarily understand what all these numbers mean. But if you was to put that into a graph format for them, if you could say this is how it compares to your forecast, to your budget, then they can actually interpret it a little bit better. I mean, I can. I'm from a finance background, and I prefer I can interpret a graph a lot easier than I can, you know, some sea of Excel numbers. So that's sort of where we really started, and we did have those challenges along the way. Fast forward now, what we've, like I say, suppose 6 years. We actually, so a couple of years ago, we actually changed our tactic with this. So we thought, you know, we've now got some tried and tested, you know, use cases of Futrli where people have used it. Clients have taken well to it. The feedback was brilliant. It's like, oh, this is great what we can do with it. And as well, the product changed, the product has developed as well. So we now have the predictive forecasting, the short-term forecasting, which I think can embed Futrli into a client's business. We can then sort of, you know, pick off on the reporting side and actually use that information as well. So we actually then started an initiative to say, right, we've got our good use cases. We had a digital team as well, that were very, you know, champions, shall we say. So, you know, they were sort of embedded with the no-sayers, that, you know, promoting the cause. Every time someone had an objection, they'd be like, oh, actually, no, you can do this with it. And so on. So it took quite a lot of time. We actually invested quite a lot of time in education into the firm as well, because we realised, not just with Futrli, but with our other cloud products, that people seem to think that they didn't have to know how to answer a Sage Cloud query, how to answer a Futrli query, you know, how to answer a Dex query. They just thought, oh, that's the digital team, that's up to them. Well, actual fact, no, it's not. It's everybody. This is the era that we're in now. Everybody has to be able to deal with all these things. So we actually created a digital skills matrix. A skills matrix, actually. Oh, wow. So we need to take away the word digital, don't we? So skills matrix that said you need to be able to, on each of these softwares, at a very basic level, do this, 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 and this. Our higher level digital team then will deal with the more bespoke queries, you know, the more absurd apps, the ones that you don't see every day, the operational sort of type tools, but everyone has to deal with this. So it did require everyone then to know how to use the software, which then helps as well because more people then started using it. So with a mix of people promoting the cause, the champions, the skills matrix, requiring people to have to use it, we then did get a lot more buy-in, which then actually moved us forward to the initiative that we actually started a couple of years ago, where we now, every accounts meeting, so we now have a lot more clients on Futrli, first and foremost, I should say. So everyone is like, a client comes in, they need management accounts, so they're going to get our dashboard with some management accounts, and we're going to show them exactly what this does. We're going to show them our advisory planner, and we're going to sit down with them, and we're going to say, you know, we're going to find out exactly what KPIs that they need to monitor, what they've got in their business plan, and then we can actually then show them exactly how we can actually then work out how we're going to monitor that on an ongoing basis. So we do that, but that said, we still have a lot of clients that aren't using, weren't using the platform, and actually it's ongoing, don't get me wrong, it's not 100% perfect, it is ongoing. So we decided then that we were going to create a sort of health check board. So two things. So first of all, a health check board, and when we go to any touch point that we've got with the client, so whether that be the year-end meeting, whether that be, you know, regular conversation that we have with the client, we'll actually then share this board with them, take this to them and say, actually, this is the interpretation of your information up to date as it is in your cloud accounting software, and this is actually the type of information that we can provide to you to actually get them interested a little bit. Once then they're interested, we can actually then continue to talk to them and actually just dive into their business in a little bit more detail with that as well. So I think where we've come from initially, where we had quite a lot of reluctance, we recognised that there was a need for the tool within the firm, first of all, to make us more efficient, but also secondly, to give our clients some better information. Quite a few struggles along the way, but now we're actually in a good routine where every client that we can connect up to Futrli, we'll be setting that up. We will be then using the information that's within Futrli to either drive those regular discussions that we have with the client, or if they're not receiving that service, we'll be saying this is what we can do, this is what I actually think is relevant to you, and then we can actually then try and change those clients from the traditional year end, through to that more management reporting, regular contacts kind of client as well.
Yeah, lots to pick up there, particularly around some of the specifics in terms of your approach to data and standardizing process so that you can get to that. So we'll come to that. But Ron, does that sound familiar in terms of the journey that other partners have gone on, or is the stuff there that Sarah and her team have done that are some of, I guess, the key reasons that they've had better success than other partners? How does it fit in terms of other firms that you're talking to and seeing trying to do this stuff successfully?
So I think there's quite a classic sort of journey into using stuff like this. I think the thing that sets Sarah and the team apart is that you do have these really committed, really bright people driving it forwards. Because one of the bits that really rang true for me there was you saying sort of people sort of saying, well, that's not my job, I don't have to use that, that's someone else, or God forbid, that's someone else's job, and then they leave. Often happens when implementing something like this. But I think the whole point of getting softwares like this is that you sort of take the power from someone that has to be super skilled on something, and you can spread it across the whole team, removing those bottlenecks and getting the power to sort of implement these services with clients right into the hands of the people that are actually speaking to them. You're not sort of waiting for reports or huge Excel models or something to be made by the one person that knows how to make them 3 offices away or something.
Yeah. And I think sorry, go on.
No, go on, Sarah. Go.
I was just going to say, I think the speed in which you can actually deliver the services is quite important as well. I mean, if we go back to that Excel model that, typically probably most firms have used in the past to do some form of management reporting, or even cash flow forecasting as well, actually. We do all our cash flow forecasting on Futrli now. But even that just takes, or it did take, a super duper amount of time just to actually get to a set of management accounts or a forecast. I mean, forecasts are generally quite urgently needed, aren't they? So you don't have the time to, be, forgive my technical term, but faffing around with the Excel spreadsheet. We don't have the time. And I think with the likes of Futrli, you can do things so much quicker and be a lot more proactive with it as well.
Yeah, definitely. And it's not to say also that everything's done at the click of a button, but what you get with something like this is that any work that you do for one client or one report or one forecast then rolls over into the next one. And it's that scalability piece as well, because what we don't want people to be doing is putting out mass-produced reports or something, or every accountant in the country to be sending their clients the same reports, because then what's the point? But it's sort of using that initial setup time to then make something that's very smooth and saving you time later on.
I think I want to try and get to the crux of the issue here, because I think if we talk to most accountants and bookkeepers and say, would you like to be doing more for your clients? Would you like to be doing more forecasting, more management reporting? The majority, and not everyone, but the majority would say, absolutely, definitely want to do that. So if there's this appetite and everyone wants to do it, it's like, what are the things that are stopping people doing it? And the conversations that I have often is, well, I know my clients need it, but I just can't get them to recognize the value. And this seems to be that one big issue. And what we saw during COVID, for example, is all of a sudden everybody recognized the value. So all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I want to apply for a CBILS loan, and I've got to have a forecast, and I've got to have management reports. And the number of firms that weren't in a position to be able to click a couple of buttons and produce management accounts because they did bookkeeping once a quarter, or they did bookkeeping once a year. It's like step one is, well, we've got to have the data. So and I did some sessions at Accountex, and I mentioned it in one of my LinkedIn posts here, where in 4 sessions I asked who's doing bookkeeping at least weekly for their clients. It was less than 5%. So step one is that if you haven't got the data, you can't make these tools work for you. So before you even start to have a conversation with somebody, can we help you with management reporting, forecasting? You've got to be giving them data to be able to run their business. But how do we, and I guess for you, Sarah, first of all, it's like, how do we get clients to understand the value? We know they need this stuff.
Yeah,
Any good
yeah,
accountant will know that you need to know what's going on in your business. You
yeah,
need to know what's going to happen with your cash.
yeah.
So we know clients need it. Why are we not kind of making them understand why they need it?
Yeah, I think it's to me, I think it's because they don't, unless you provide them with some example or some the information with their with their data in, I don't think that they can actually, it's not been brought to life for them, has it? And I think if something's not been brought to life for them, it's very difficult for them to know the benefits of it. That's what I think. And I think that's why we went down the route of creating the health check, the boards, the sort of health check boards for clients that actually uses their data, because they can see that information. A lot of it then will come down to the interpretation and us as advisors to be able to pick out what matters, to pick out the relevant points. But that's what I think. I think if people don't see their data in this, they can't visualize it, then they're just like, oh yeah, I'll deal with it later. I think a little bit. And I think actually, I think using something like Futrli and providing them an example is a good way of actually then having a conversation with clients about the fact that they need to have real-time data as well. Because a lot of people, uh, it's unfortunate that I think only when somebody urgently wants a set of management accounts or urgently wants a cash flow do they then realise that they've not got the data, isn't it? There has to be, it's human nature, isn't it? A problem arises and then that drives our desire to change. When in actual fact, we should have a desire to, we should always want to be better. We should always want to have the access to the best information we can. Anyway, sorry, I digress a little bit. But what we do find, like I say, is we go to clients with the Futrli board and they're like, oh yeah, this is brilliant. This is great. And it's like, well, actually, you can give you this information, but what you need to realize is that your accounts information, your invoices need to be posted a lot quicker, but we can help you with that. Your bank reconciliation needs to be done. Why is your bank reconciliation still done, weekly, monthly? Why is somebody spending a vast amount of time doing that reconciliation? So that also, I suppose, drives a discussion for us about another health check service that we do have, where we'll actually go into a clients and we'll sort of sit with them, review all of the workflows that they have within their business, and then advise them on what they can do differently. So it might be a simple case of using the software that they've got better because they don't know that there's some features that have been released, or there's new apps now that can, that are available that weren't available at the time they moved over onto the cloud software. Or it might be that they're still using some form of old, legacy desktop software. That actually, let's have a look. Let's move this into the cloud. Let's get you that access to real-time information. So where we do have clients that aren't quite ready for a board, or the data's behind, we can still actually have those discussions with them. But it actually just leads us on to a bit more of a health check review and work for the digital advisory team. Before then, we can say, right, now we can do your management reporting properly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And how does that fit with kind of what you see in other firms in terms of how they go about getting clients to understand the value, and getting to this point of delivering what we know clients really need, getting them to understand what they need.
Yeah.
It's the biggest hurdle every single time. Like the biggest pushback you get when you trying to roll out Futrli with someone is, my clients don't want it, or even my clients don't need it.
Yeah.
A lot of people will say, but I think a lot of it just comes down to sort of the branding, sort of sales part of it. Because I think if you go to a room full of small businesses and you ask them to put their hands if they who wants a forecast, not all of them are going to do that. But then if you said who needs a business plan, basically all of them are going to put up their hands. It's the same thing, but if you just take it away from just being about the numbers and make it more about the actionable side of it on the other end of the numbers, then they're going to be a lot more receptive to it. The other part of it, I think, and we were sort of discussing this a little bit before the call, but I think it's if your clients have seen it and they still don't want it, then the potential is that you're not showing them the right stuff. And that can be that it's not relevant to the industry that they're in, or sort of the problems that they're going through at the moment. That just comes out of a conversation. What are the drivers of their business and how can you put them in front of them? The other sort of cardinal sin that I see quite a lot is showing people too much.
Yeah,
You know, whacking a whole P&L or balance sheet in front of a client and expecting them to drive their business from that.
Yeah.
If they
yeah,
wanted to do that, they can pull that out of Xero or
Yeah.
QuickBooks in a couple of clicks.
yeah,
And also, then what are they paying you to do in the middle of all of this?
yeah,
Your financial expertise should be highlighting the bits that are actually going to impact them. What has gone up and gone down? What is a worry for them? What is going to
yeah.
help them achieve their goals that you've already discussed? Not just sort of a vague line at the top of the screen going up or down, and then everyone's sort of
Yeah.
trembling,
Yeah.
seeing where it's going to go.
So a couple of things. Firstly, on the point on business planning, I did some workshops with Sage in autumn last year and spring this year. And I asked a question around kind of the accountants and bookkeepers in the room in terms of who has a plan um, for their own business. And I made the point it doesn't need to be like a 40-page business plan, but at least some clarity of where you want to be. Shockingly, it was less than 2%. So less than 2% of accounting and bookkeeping firms, and okay, some people are shy about putting their hands up at live events and everything else, but let's say it was massively underestimated and it was really 10%. I mean that says a lot about why we will also sit here as accountants and bookkeepers say, I know my clients don't need that, because if we're not doing it ourselves, then we're kind of clouding an expectation of what clients want. I think for me, what I say to firms is you need to be having conversations with your clients to really get to understand what they're trying to achieve. And a great way to do this is if you ask kind of, I don't know, pick a few favorite clients and say, what's the most valuable thing we do for you? And the way that we get to the real root cause of stuff is like acting like an 8-year-old child and asking why enough times. Because your client in that case might say, well, I know that whenever I've got a problem, I can pick the phone up and you're going to give me some advice. You're going to give me some guidance. But if you start to say, well, why is that important? Well, if I get the advice, I make the right decisions in my business. Well, why is it important you make the right decisions in your business? Well, if I make the right decisions, I can earn the money I need. Why do you need to earn that money? Because I want to take more money out of business. Well, why do you want to take more money out of my business? Because I want to pay my mortgage off by the time I'm 50. So you go from a point where the client will say, the best thing you do for me is you answer a question when I've got it, to the best thing you do for me is you're going to help me pay my mortgage off by the time I'm 50. And when you understand that's the objective, you can say, well, to help you do that, we need to do this, this, and this. And it's going to cost you X. And all of a sudden, what you're doing is you're not selling management reporting and cash flow forecasting. You're selling them being able to pay their mortgage off by the time they're 50, because you can help them build the KPIs. You can help them monitor the things that they're doing. You can help them pull the levers in their finances to get to that point where they can take that extra money out that they need to achieve that goal. And that's the crux of it, isn't it? Like every client has got something that they're desperate to achieve. And often we as their advisors don't know what it is because we don't ask questions.
I think sometimes there's a certain amount of kind of fear as to actually finding out what your clients want. Because, you know, someone might say, I want to pay off my mortgage by the time I'm 50. That's a slightly easier one to sort of digest and make a plan. That's about putting money to the side. But they might say something a bit weirder and wackier that you don't know necessarily how to sort of join the dots between where they are now and where they want to be. But I think another thing that I think is a barrier to entry on this quite a lot is sort of almost that fear to get started. I think people sort of kind of forget that this is an iterative process and you're going to be speaking to these people at least every month, ideally every week. So what you put in front of them initially is going to change every single time. So even if you don't necessarily know every step to their goals right now, let's start out, let's see what works, test the water, and then keep working on it. Because if you wait for to build the perfect report, you know, we charge every month. Let's start getting stuff in front of them. And then and building on it from there, because like you say, well, just you've got to ask what they want to see if you don't know. And sometimes they won't know until they've seen something,
Yeah.
and then you just improve it for the next time.
Yeah, and our relationships get better the more we talk with clients. So for me, it's always what service lines can we build that enable us to have these regular client touch points? And I always talk about daily or weekly bookkeeping, because that's a mechanism. That's a mechanism that gives us a reason to talk to clients every week. Firms I was working with during COVID were saying things like, "It's really great. Our clients are saying really positive things about us at the moment." And it's like, well, okay, so what are you doing differently? Well, I don't really know. I mean, we're telling them every couple of weeks when the government updates information on furlough and CBILS. So hang on a second, there's a correlation here, isn't there? You're talking to clients every 2 weeks, and your clients are really happy with what you're doing for them.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do when the government stops giving you stuff every 2 weeks to share with your clients? What are you going to replace that with to kind of make sure that you continue to have those conversations on a really regular basis? How did you do that, Sarah? In I mean, from where you started to that point where you understood what your clients were trying to achieve, and therefore build the solutions to help them deliver it.
Yeah, so we like I said, we have increased our touch points with clients. So we actually have a list. We work with a database in the background, so that will tell us what we've not spoken to. You've not spoken to this client for for X. You need to speak to this client. So just to go back, sorry, a step. We've got a bit of a mix of. We're not 100% bookkeeping firm, so we've got a mix of clients that we do the bookkeeping for, and where we do the bookkeeping, we will do that bookkeeping as frequently as possible. Daily is daily, weekly. So we do have regular touch points with them in any case, and those are the ones where making a move to Futrli has been a lot easier because we have the data and it's there. Our challenge has always been with those clients that have their own finance teams in place, because we still can act as advisor, but we actually want to, they're a little bit more difficult to sort of to remember to contact and to have that sort of weekly contact with, because if we thought, traditionally, sorry, if we'd phone them up, it's like, are you charging me for this? It's like, no, just want to say hello, because that's it. So what we actually do is for those clients, we maintain sort of database in the background that will actually then be telling us, oh, actually, we've not spoken to this client for 3-4 weeks, or what. There's a set, depending on the type of client, there's actually some set matrix in the background. So I'll not go into the complexity of that because it is sort of quite complex, but we'll actually then have a flag that will come up to say, actually, we've not spoken to this client. We need to actually then pick up the phone and speak to the client. And so if you imagine that all the clients are sort of rated, sorry, this sounds quite bad, but they're all in different categories ultimately. So we'll actually then work down, it's the responsibility of the partner and the manager who look after that client to actually then be having those conversations with the clients on an ongoing basis. So 2 different approaches depending on what services we're giving to the client, if that makes sense.
Yeah, perfect. And just a couple of things. So firstly, if anybody's got any questions at the moment, do pop them in the Q&A box, and we'll pick those up. I want to touch on pricing at some point, but we'll come back to that. You talked about kind of you're using some of the templates and stuff within Futrli, Sarah. It might be worth Ron just kind of jumping on and just kind of giving a flavor of the kind of templates that you're using in terms of those conversations with your clients, just so anybody attending that hasn't seen it can see how this works and how you're using that as a mechanism to engage clients in the process in terms of understanding what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. So in terms of the reporting in Futrli, as I sort of mentioned in my very quick elevator pitch at the top, kind of the line that we're riding is through ultimate sort of customizability, but then without adding lots of sort of verbose processes that are going to slow you down. So, for example, we have lots and lots of Futrli templates in here. I think there's sort of 70 odd or something in there for you to get started with, and in a couple of clicks you can have a nice little one pager there on your cash flow. Great, but because we want this to be bespoke to your clients, the service that you're providing, and something really individual to you, these are all just jumping off points. And like I said, it's often about what you're not showing, so you can subtract things from that, and you can click into any of these and adjust the parameters of them. But also what I really like about the Futrli templating system is that you can add multiple templates to one report. So we've got a cash flow page here. Let's say you've been talking to a client a lot about their cash flow and they've got a bit of a sticky situation that they've got to manage themselves around, but maybe they're also a highly leveraged business. So we're going to want to get their sort of balance sheet ratios in there too. And then you can just keep doing adding stuff like that. So, in a couple of clicks, you've got something that you didn't have to build from scratch, but is also bespoke to their needs. And then, of course, you have the ability, once you've created it, future cash flow report 4, beautiful, we love it. If I come in here, I can then copy that to workspace templates, and then I can use that across multiple clients as well.
Yeah, so it is this that we use. We've got workplace templates that are set up. So depending on what it is that we're doing, we will always start with one of the templates. So as I mentioned before, we'll take that board to, if it's one that we're trying to, get into Futrli, then we'll get into the service. Sorry, not the software, it's about the service. But if we have one that we're trying to sort of onboard onto the service, then we've got a health check template, so we'll take that to the meeting. But then whoever does actually produce that, the account staff that do produce that at the time, will then actually tweak it. So if we do have the information already about the goals, about what sector they're in, we could be a little bit creative and provide information that we initially think would be of interest to them, and then once they've gone, oh God, actually, yeah, this is really good for us. What we will then do is then start those discussions. Right, what is in the plan? Do you need our help with doing a plan? What KPIs do we need to track? And then we tailor it from there. So we have the starting point, which then becomes, it evolves over time. It evolves over the relationship as well.
Yeah. And Ron, what are the Sarah just mentioned KPIs there, and we said one of the things we'd look at is like the key KPIs that really matter when we're doing this stuff with clients, and how we go about measuring them. What are the key things that you think firms should be looking at and working with their clients on to deliver the kind of the real value here?
So it's a tricky one to give too much advice on, I think, because of how much of a broad church it is. But I think the way to figure it out is, again, don't seek perfection before talking to your clients, because those KPIs are not only going to be different for different clients, they're going to be different over time as well. If you're working with seasonal businesses or they have different projects on and whatnot, those KPIs are going to change hugely over time. The other thing that I'd always be looking at when it comes to KPI reporting is what data can you get your hands on outside of the financial information you've got. So, for example, in Futrli, you can add non-financial drivers into the system. So if you can get website traffic, ad clicks, stock numbers, bums on seats in the restaurant, whatever it is, whatever the actual things that have a sort of mechanical effect on their business are, if you can get those into the system, then you're taking their reporting to the next level. And then the last big key tip for me on that is to be looking for what I call sort of upstream KPIs. So you're looking at, you can look at income, that's great, but then if you look at the number of sales, that tells you another bit of the puzzle. But then actually, what is driving those sales, or whatever it is, how many phone calls are you making, how many people are going to your website, things like that, because that's going to inform you ahead of time what's happening, rather than you reacting to things in the moment.
And I think this is the crux of it, isn't it? Because it's not just about being able to present this data. I think one used the term actionable insights or something along those lines, where we're getting this data. The value that we add is then taking this data and saying, well, okay, so what do we need to do? We know this is where you are, and we know this is where you want to be. So what are the things that you need to be doing to enable us to kind of get you there?
Exactly, yeah, and you can use the software to work stuff out like on that as well. So I was building a report recently, and I think it's this one. Yeah, so you can use that to work it out retrospectively. So worked out average spend per customer over the last year, So we then work out how many customers we need to get through the door to then hit our targets later on. So by analyzing it on a historical basis, you then inform those things later on. We do have a question from Addy, which is related to this, just about where these KPIs come from. So it's he asks, is that a direct link to CRM or ERP? No, it's not. So it's we to keep things as flexible as possible and not limit it to how quickly our developers can make those API connections. You enter them directly into the platform, and we will have Excel import at some point soon, so you can bulk import them. But at the moment, you can just input them straight into the system. So super flexible. You can get the numbers from anywhere.
So you can just if it's, as you said, footfall or kind of number of covers in a hospitality business, you just create effectively a new group, something there.
Exactly. Yeah. So you literally just type them in here. So if we were doing footfall and or number of covers or something, so you can type them in like that, and then what's really nice about it as well is that we've got sort of scenario modeling capabilities built in as well. So I've got my covers in there. That's what I'm expecting, but then I can create another one. I can do that via a formula. And then we can do sort of best case covers. I can reference that other one that I've made. And then let's say we times that by 1.2 or something. And then you've got two different non-financial drivers dependent on each other, because then if I change this one and we decide actually we're going to open an extra room in August or something, that one then adjusts itself as well. So setting yourself up for time saving later on.
Excellent. So that's really useful. Thank you for that, Ron. Sarah, I mean, one of the big challenges or areas of question we get normally when we're having these kind of conversations about advisory work and reporting and forecasting, how do you charge for it?
Yeah, how do you charge for it? So yes, very good question. So we do charge. I'm going to say, so we are very much still time recording. I will say that there's a whole debate, isn't it, about whether we should time record or whether we
Definitely
shouldn't.
not. We ain't got time for that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I think. But so we do very much still time record. So you will find that a lot of people, when we are actually pricing for services, tend to be drawn to, actually, what person do I need times the multiple of the hourly rate. However, when it comes to the forecasting and when it comes to management reporting, we do tend to still work on fixed fees more. So we have like a pricing matrix in the background, and the same for bookkeeping. So we have a pricing matrix in the background that will tell us for this client, for this level of income, for this number of transactions, this is how much this is the range it would anticipate it to be. So we'd sit down with the client, we do the scope, we go, right, okay, understand it a little bit more, look at the data, does that need a little bit of work? And then we'll sort of refer to the matrix and then price it from there based on the fixed fee. But then we do still get some comfort from whether that fixed fee was right or not, based on the fact we are still time recording. Unfortunately, I hate to admit that. Apologies, it's like swearing, isn't it?
I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, this isn't a debate on time recording, but actually it underpins everything we're talking about here. So for people that have listened to me over the years will know for a long time we didn't time record. We now do. Again, as a business, and the data that it's given us and the ability to drive decisions that we're making in our business is phenomenal. It goes nowhere near kind of influencing what we charge and what our fee structure is. It is purely about us making decisions on and the point is that this is the conversation we're having here. How do we take data to drive decision making? So again, we need to be comfortable that we're doing that ourselves. Because my challenge on time has always been that lots of firms spend a load of money collecting that data and then do nothing with it. That's worth the money. So a team of 10 are going to spend 27 grand a year recording time. Are you getting 27 grand for the value out of that? If you're not, then don't do it.
If you then don't charge it on, isn't it? If actually you've gone over your initial scope and you're not going to use that information to say, actually, we've gone over what was agreed, I'm going to charge it to you, then that's, like you say, it just becomes purely a little bit of a wasted effort, doesn't it? So
Yes, indeed. So we've gone 45 minutes. I'm conscious we want to have some time if anybody's got any more questions. I want to flag up for me what some of the key takeaways are for people from this session. I mean, in terms of the things that people listening to this should do if they've listened to this and said absolutely we need to do more of this. What are the first steps? What do you think are the things that firms need to do first to be able to move to kind of where you've got to, so with the way that you're working with clients? And same question to Ron.
Yeah, so I think I think sort of mirroring what Ron said before. I think first of all we have to not be afraid, I think, to jump in, and we have to not be afraid to actually, if our clients' data, sorry, I've just gone a little bit off what we said before actually, but I think we have to not be afraid. I think so we have to not be afraid first of all to sort of to tell the client actually your data isn't very good. I think typically, and I know we certainly have in the past, we've just accepted what's been given to us and sort of dealt with the headache of it. And I think we have to stop that and be able to say, actually, no, this isn't right. We need you to do this differently. And I think we have to stop being afraid of doing that through fear of upsetting clients, because actually it's coming from a good place. It's coming from a place of wanting to do better. So I think we need to stop being afraid, stop being afraid of trying new things as well. I think we just have to go, we have to try it. It makes our life a little bit more interesting, I think. But then alongside that, I think once we have actually then started on the journey, I think it's very important that we need to be very persistent, and we need to persevere with it. So I think when obstacles are thrown at us, because they are thrown at us and they continue to be thrown at us, it doesn't stop, does it? You don't reach a perfect point. Your challenges come at you all the time. So I think it's important to just persevere and to continue and actually stay strong. Don't let the odd client, oh, actually, no, well, it's okay, we can use Excel for them. Oh, such and such a person, oh, it doesn't matter, let them use Excel because of XYZ. I think we have to be very strong with what our goal is to reach your goal, sorry. And we also just need to be consistent in that messages as well, which again, just using those two examples, it's just about being consistent, applying what your objectives to the whole firm, not just to certain individuals or certain teams, and then also just being persistent and not bowing down to pressure or bowing down to obstacles. I think that's what I would say, and it's easier said than done. Admittedly, it's absolutely easier said than done, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying that it's all been perfect. It's absolutely not. Like, the challenges do come up, and it's just about how we deal with them and having the right people to support those champions, I think, in the firm. I think that's very important. The ones that you do have, let them flourish, let them sort of drive it forward, and let them get involved, because if not, we're at risk of, I think, demotivating people as well. If we're forever saying, oh, actually, no, we'll not do that, or we've let such a person get away with that, or such a person's not using that, then the ones that you've got that are championing your cause will just become demotivated and disinterested. So we have to think about it from that point of view as well. Yeah. And I think complacency, so just throw a final one in as well, but I don't think we should ever really be complacent. I think we should, I do think we need to sort of acknowledge if something isn't working for genuine reasons, then yes, let's look at why, but let's change it, let's do it better, let's not just dismiss. Let's find a way around. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. Ron, what do people need to do first?
I think first thing, again, don't be afraid to get started. Don't be afraid to be prescriptive either. You're the expert in that situation, so don't be afraid to sort of tell your clients what they need and what you're going to use and what not. I'll hear some people say, like, oh, we asked them and they don't want to use Futrli actually. And it's like, well, don't ask then. I'd much rather people didn't actually know who we were. It was buttoned up into a service. I want it to be coming from you. It's got nothing to do with us. We don't provide the value you guys do. And then I think as the biggest tip to getting started, every one of the apps that you'll use to get a service like this running will have someone like me sat behind it, ringing you once a week, trying to get you to use it. Lean on those people. If you come and use Futrli, you'll have a team of experts getting you onboarded onto that, and then all the other apps that you use to pull something like this off, like we talk about pricing, like getting Go Proposal involved, there'll be another expert that will help you set up all of that stuff. You're not alone for any step of this journey. So yeah, lean on the resources that you can get, basically.
Perfect. Excellent. And last call for any questions from anybody. And whilst we do that, my key takeaways here. Number one, we need to help clients understand what they need rather than sell them what we think they want to buy. I've been guilty of that. Everything I talk about is stuff that I've got wrong over the years. If we don't, we know what clients really need. It's our obligation to help them understand why they need it, rather than just take the easy route, which is, well, they don't need that. All they want is accounts, tax returns, VAT, and a bit of software. We have an obligation to go further. Any great advice starts with great data. So if we haven't got regular, accurate, timely data, all of the cloud ledger solutions that we're using now have bank feeds. Bank feeds were added to enable business owners and their advisors, us, do a little bit every day. So let's do a little bit every day and make sure that people have got real valuable data to help them make decisions they need. Build services that enable regular client touch points. So I talked about the COVID thing, and that while we were having regular touch points, our clients love what we did. So what are the things that we can do that encourage us to contact the client every week, every 2 weeks? That's what we need to do. We've got to get people, process, technology mix right. So having the right tools, we've talked about Futrli here as the right tool, but that's no good if we've got people that won't use it, can't use it, don't want to use it, and the processes that we have don't underpin and support it. So that's the data. The system won't give us good quality information if the data's not there. Sarah talked about the need to be persistent and consistent. If something doesn't work initially, don't just give up on it. Understand why it doesn't work and take the steps to make it work, and persevere. And finally, Ron's point earlier that the insights are great, but what are we going to do with it? So how do we take those insights to ensure that we are delivering the real value ultimately that we can, by using the data that we've got available? And finally, if you want to take a look at Futrli, if you haven't used it or you used it 5 years ago, it's a very, very different product to what it was 5 years ago. Here's an opportunity for you to get a 14-day trial, and also get 50% off for 3 months if you decide that you want to play a bit further after the trial. Addie's just said we were going to mention pricing. My comment there was pricing around the way that we price the service delivery. But Ron, can you answer the question on Futrli pricing, just in case that's what Addie's asking here?
Futrli pricing, it depends exactly how many licenses you are going to take out. But we charge per license. You're not getting locked into any package. You'll pay for exactly the number of clients that you want to connect up, and as little as £10 per client. Yeah, £10 per connection.
And Addie, if it was on pricing of service, I think Sarah's summary there was that they still do a reasonable amount of hourly pricing, but try and create fixed fees based on assumptions of what we're doing. I think advisory is often how long's a piece of string, so it is a difficult thing to price. I think again, if we go through that process that I mentioned earlier in terms of linking the advisory services we're delivering to what a client genuinely wants to achieve, any resistance to price is going to be lowered. So if we know that a client wants to achieve X, and we can say, well, to help you achieve that, we need to do this, this, and this, and the cost of doing that is this amount, the resistance is going to be much lower. If you're trying to say, hey, do you want management reports? And those management reports are going to be £150 a month. Clients are going to say, oh, I think I'll leave those. We've got to help clients understand why they need it. Ron Addie's just saying, how can people get in contact with you? We are going to send out a follow-up email from this, which will certainly have things like the QR code and things like that. But Ron, if anybody wants to
I'll whack my email in the chat. I'm always happy to chat with people.
Excellent. So it's coming now, Addie. LinkedIn's a great place as well, of course, to find any of us on LinkedIn. I'm sure we'll all be very happy to connect and continue the conversation online as well. So we are almost at the hour. I did say I wanted to try and help everybody get away ready for their 12 o'clock if you've got one lined up. So big thanks to Futrli for being involved in running this webinar with us. Thanks to Ron and Sarah for turning up and sharing their experiences. I had an expectation it was going to be a really interesting conversation. I haven't been disappointed. So thank you both very much. And of course, thank you to all of you for joining the session, taking an hour out of your day to come and listen about what we can do to help our clients in any way possible, because ultimately that's what we're here to do. So thank you all very much. Hope it's been useful. Thanks again to Ron and Sarah, and hopefully see everybody on another webinar very soon. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Thanks.
Thanks so
Bye.
much, guys.
Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.